Welcome to Delphine Circle in Harmoneum, where conscious conversations spark transformation. I'm your host, Delphine Channels. Let's jump in. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Fab Mancini. He is a pioneer in integrative wellness and a global voice for the power of self-healing. Dr. Fab espouses that by leading by example in self-help, you can create a culture of wellness that extends far beyond yourself. This is the core of his message. Self-healing is a form of leadership. When we take responsibility for our health and well-being, we model alignment, integrity, and purpose, and vitality becomes the natural outcome. A leader committed to self-help shows up clearer, more grounded, and more capable of inspiring change in others. Today, Dr. Fab will share the biggest health challenges that we're facing in our time and how embracing self-healing can elevate both our personal and our professional lives. Welcome, Dr. Fab. So happy to have you.
Well, thank you, Delphine. I'm so excited about this, and I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Well, in your book, Self-Health, which I just happen to have a copy of, so excited. Reverse chronic disease. You make it very clear. This is what we're talking about. And you teach that self-healing isn't just about feeling better. It's about becoming a stronger, clearer, more effective version of yourself. So why do you believe that self-healing is really the new perspective on this moving into this next era, leadership, moving forward?
Well, when I wrote the book, The Power of Self-Healing, which was about 12 years ago, my message was to remind people that the body has already systems and organs and cells that are designed to keep us healthy, that we need to trust in that. And the challenge is that we know that the new statistics are showing that over 76% of Americans have a chronic disease. Over 50% of our children have a chronic disease.
Did you just say 76% of Americans have a chronic disease?
That's the new release that just released. HHS just released it. It's 90% of our healthcare costs. Now, for those of you that don't know what a chronic disease is, these are your cancers, heart disease, diabetes, obesity, autoimmune system diseases, chronic pain. These are all the diseases that over 90% of them are actually preventable and reversible. So we know that there's a major disconnect right now where we have given our power of healing to a third party, to somebody else, instead of why I wrote this book, Self-Health, is to really empower the individual that the only thing that actually reverses chronic disease is actually making a better choice today when it comes to my health than I did yesterday. And if you make one good choice today, that's all I'm asking, then let's do it again the next day. And what we have found, Delphine, is that when you make good choices, then all of a sudden your body craves another good choice. And pretty soon now you're making a series of good choices, which is completely moving you away from what most people's chronic disease symptoms are.
I love that. And I feel like that's the message we're hearing over and over. It's about the micro movements, right? It's about the micro choices. And I think that's so accessible for people because people want to know a place that they can start and they always feel so overwhelmed. So I love what you're saying. But I got to ask, why are we so sick? And why are these challenges so difficult for the traditional healthcare system to solve?
Well, part of it is, I believe that stress, and the pandemic was a perfect example. It's really not being taken very seriously. Most people are not managing their stress properly. And the father of stress, Hans Selye, in the 1950s, he would say that stress is good in our lives, right? It gets us going, it challenges us, it inspires us, it moves us. But chronic stress, meaning what he called distress, is the one that unfortunately is like running in a treadmill is good, but try to running in a treadmill for 8 hours. It's exhausting. You're going to break down. You're going to fall off. And that's what's happening to the body. That chronic stress is lasting longer and longer, whether it's financial stress, whether it's relationship stress, whether it's my job and my career stress. All of these stressors are building up in our bodies and are breaking our bodies down, which are one of the leading causes of why we can't sleep, why we have so much depression and anxiety, why even some people are having suicidal tendencies. So we need to really manage the stress levels in our lives. And I believe that this is one of the things that people are beginning to recognize, that breathing exercises, right? Every single day can be a wonderful source. Meditating, whether it's a guided meditation or just being in silence, praying. There's so much studies about the power of prayer. So I'm just encouraging people, manage your stress, and you'll see that your symptoms will start reducing very rapidly.
You know, we just had Patrick Porter on, and he was talking about the same thing, about the amazing studies that are moving forward, talking about how stress is impacting our bodies and the importance of going in, that the answers are within inside of ourselves. We keep trying to make them so much more difficult. So when you talk about self-healing, please help me explain to us, what exactly does that simple term mean?
Well, I right now, unfortunately, we live in a healthcare system that is pretty broken because it's geared towards what we call acute or urgency in healthcare, right? So if you get in an accident and you end up in a hospital, thank God, because the hospitals are designed to support something that is very radical. The challenge that that's less than 5% of our conditions that we deal with every single day. So over 90% of them are really lifestyle choices. So self-health is a reminder of people that at the end of the day, your body is not broken. It's just waiting for you to give it permission to heal properly. That's all it is. That as we get older, studies have shown right now, we shouldn't be thinking that we're going to get broken down and we're going to age. And in fact, as I've gotten older, I've reversed many of my physiological, emotional, even spiritual dimensions because I'm going deeper into this self-health component. And that's really there. It's just an empowerment and a reminder of people that your body and your health is really a choice. And if you make good choices, now you're applying what we call the self-health principles.
And how did we even get so far down this path with this understanding that we are having to go to doctors, or not that doctors aren't good, doctors definitely play their role, but we turn over our power to somebody outside of ourselves or a system outside of ourselves, instead of this idea that we ourselves are responsible for our health, for responsible for our body, even as much as our beliefs and our thoughts about our body, right? It's such a powerful thing. So for somebody that's listening to you and says, okay, I'm ready to do this, what are some of the few daily choices and what are some of those micro habits that you're talking about that can help us activate our body's self-healing ability?
Well, the reason that we got here is because natural health sciences like acupuncture, homeopathy, herbology, all of those have been around for 5,000 years plus. The thing is that we live in a world right now that healthcare is primarily designed, and the way that medical doctors are being trained today, which is over 80% of healthcare in the world, is primarily to support and manage a symptom through pharmaceuticals. Now, the new awareness is that people are realizing, no, managing my symptoms is not getting me any healthier. I need to get to the root cause of my problem. So that's really where the shifting is happening right now. That if you really want to get rid of whatever symptomatology or diagnosis you've been given, which I call it just an opinion based on your training, then you need to really pay attention what got you there in the first place and what could be contributing to that particular symptom. So some of the things that people can do right now, and I mentioned a little bit earlier, I'm a big believer, especially in the science now, that we should wake up every single day doing deep breathing exercises. Because right now, the average person is only breathing less than 30% of his capabilities. So we're not getting enough oxygen in the body, and oxygen is the cause of inflammation in the body. When we don't have enough oxygen in our cells, then our cells become inflamed, and that becomes then the inflammation that is the foundation for most of the chronic diseases. The other one is we have to get away from the processed foods. Over 60% of our diet is processed foods. We need to replace them with organic, whole foods because they're the ones that have the nutrients. The other ones don't, and they actually now are linked to toxifying the body. And lastly, I would say we got to move our bodies. We got to at least do 20 to 30 minutes of movement. And if you can sweat, even better. And now there's even studies that if you walk 30 minutes a day, it can actually add 7 years to your life, according to a Harvard study that just recently came out.
And these all sound so simple, right? It's not that difficult. Um, I am especially interested in the fact that so many of the things that you're saying are really just going back to ancient wisdom, right? It's the same things that we've heard our ancestors talk about, and it's really kind of a turn back. And I'm hearing this trend through many of the speakers in the summit. One was talking about reducing medications and increasing plant medicines, microdosing plant medicines. We have been talking about food as health, really using food as a mechanism and as to increase our health instead of, looking for outside things to do that. So I love what you're talking about here. And stress and information overload, as you're saying, are huge issues today. What can people do to start staying clearer and more focused and more resilient and reducing stress in their life? Because this is clearly one of the biggest issues that we're facing.
Yeah, in fact, in the mental health industry, they're calling it the mental health tsunami because we've never seen statistics this bad when it comes to the peace of mind that people are lacking today. So I would tell you this, begin each day with you, right? One of the best habits that I developed over the years is that your body is like a savings account. When you're making good choices, right? Like exercising in the morning, eating a very good, healthy breakfast, being able to maybe do some meditation or prayer or some kind of spirituality ritual, that's like actually putting money and savings into your account. But when you're making bad choices, it's like making a withdrawal. The problem is most people don't even have anything in their savings, yet alone they're even withdrawn from their accounts. So now all of a sudden they're showing all these symptoms. So begin with yourself will be the first one. The second one is surround yourself with people you want to be more like, right? Jim Rohn taught us many years ago that we become the sum of the 5 people that we surround ourselves with. We have found that when you surround yourself, let's say that now you're in a kick that you want to start exercising. Well, go ahead and start befriending 1 or 2 friends that are actually make exercising part of their daily routine. But let's say that you want to improve your personal relationships, then start hanging around people that you know are really good with personal relationships. But whatever it is, add them into your group and spend time with them, and you'll realize that pretty soon you'll become more like them. And then lastly, I would say we need to start sleeping. Sleep right now, according to the Alzheimer's Foundation, has become the number one reason why people have dementia and Alzheimer's, and it's a lack of sleep. Most people, we need to allow the body and the brain to repair and to rest. And right now, a lot of people are saying that they cannot sleep through the night. And even if they sleep very shallow. And in order for us to not only build the human growth hormone, which 80% happens in deep sleep, that's what keeps us younger. More importantly, you got to go into deep sleep for your body to repair itself, for the brain to regenerate itself. So that way, neuroplasticity and all of the new science that is showing us can be put into action. So these are some of the things that I practice on a daily basis, but things that I've been recommended for years because they work and there's plenty of science to back it up.
Gosh, sleep. We just keep hearing it over and over, right? It's so important, yet it's such a big challenge for so many people. Do you have any tips? I know you are always out in the community. You are on the cutting edge of what's happening in the wellness industry. Do you know any tips for people that are struggling with sleep and ways that maybe they can help to improve those?
Well, one of the things that we find is that one of the biggest causes of sleep is how much time do we spend in front of our phone and our tablets and our computers. The average American, according to a recent study, spends over 9 hours a day in front of their phone and their computer. So they call that the blue light. Unfortunately, the blue light um, does not regulate well in your brain, and it activates your brain to the point that your brain cannot rest and cannot go into that deep restful sleep. So one of the things that we have found works extremely well is that you cut all screen time at least 2 hours before you go to sleep. Some people do it an hour before. I usually find that it takes a couple of hours for your brain to decompress to the point that can actually go to sleep. The other one is try to sleep at a regular pattern. One of the biggest challenges is that, one night we go to sleep at 1 o'clock at night. The other day we go to sleep at 10. And then another time we go to sleep at midnight. try to develop a consistent pattern when you sleep if you can. I know sometimes when we travel, you're in different time zones, that can be difficult. And then lastly, make sure that you do something inspirational before you go to bed. Like some people do classical music, other people read inspiring books, other people listen to podcasts that are very inspiring. But whatever you do something inspirational, because what happens is that that last behavior that you do before you go to sleep is usually what your brain is going to be working on during the night. So it's important that whatever you feed yourself right before you go to sleep is one of the healthiest habits that you can do to let that brain give you the answers. And I have found, even for myself, that if I have a question, if I have a challenge that I'm facing, I ask my brain and my body to give me the answer during my sleep. And before I go to sleep, I pose the question and I ask my body and I say, please give me the answer while I'm sleeping. So that way I wake up with that. And you'd be surprised, Delphine, how many times I've gotten answers that way.
Oh my God, I love it. This is so true. And I wish more people did this because it's such a simple remedy to help find solutions in your life, because we know what they are, right? Nobody knows the solution better than us. We have them all within us. It's really just accessing that. So I love this piece of information. The other thing that I know you are big at intermittent fasting. Do you think that this has an impact on sleep?
On which one?
Intermittent fasting?
Yes. So right now, intermittent fasting, according to some research that have been published in the New England Journal of Medicine, is probably one of the best things that we can do, because when you fast the body, whether it's 8 hours, 6 hours, or even me, I do 20 hours because I only have one meal a day. I can tell you that one of the best things that you can do is to allow the body to use that energy that otherwise you would have used in your food. Your body then can actually regenerate itself. And that's one of the best things. So not only does it improve your sleep according to the studies, but it's actually one of the best ways to get leaner and to live longer. Your skin will clear up because you're actually detoxifying the body in a way that other things can. So I'm a big proponent. I've been doing it for almost 18 years, and I just love it. I mean, every morning I just get excited because my energy level is so high. Because when you don't have to waste that energy, imagine most of us go out at night, right? And especially if we do dinners, and let's say we're in business and we're doing our business dinners and we're going to the steakhouses and having the big tomahawks and all the mashed potatoes and all the bread. How can you let your body be able to regenerate properly? And that's where a lot of our health problems are coming from, is that we should eat. I learned this many years ago, that we should eat breakfast like a king, we should eat lunch like a prince, and we should eat dinner like a pauper. That means that we should have the least amount of food in the evenings before we go to bed, so that way our bodies can actually repair and rest properly. And then if you're going to work out in the mornings and all that, that's the time to load up, right? Because now all of a sudden your body can take all of that and make it into energy that gives you that boost that you need to get going.
That is great information. And people are concerned. They say, what, to not be able to, only eat one meal, or to not eat 3 big meals a day. First of all, I don't even know who came up with that idea, because I don't think that's ever been sound health advice. But once you get into the rhythm, it's really just not that hard. I know I'm an intermittent faster too. And
You don't even miss it. I
you
mean,
don't.
honestly. And snacking, unfortunately, it's been linked to one of our biggest causes for obesity, right? Because people are not snacking on healthy snacks, right? You're not having your almonds or some of the other things that are healthy, or like your carrots or whatever. I mean, people are snacking on potato chips and Doritos and all these things. And that's the reason why a lot of people are struggling with their weight, because your body is not being fed any nutrients. And even though I know there's a lot of movement for the food companies now to start evaluating some of these ingredients that have been linked to toxifying not only our cells but our bodies, I think that's a good movement. I think that I get very excited when I hear companies that are really trying to change the oils, especially the oils that we have seen are very damaging to our bodies, our gut, our brain, everything. But also making sure that we are reducing the sugar intakes in our bodies. Like when people ask me, say, what's the first thing I should do? I always ask them about, do they drink sodas? We know that that's a very high content of sugar, sometimes 22 grams per can. I mean, which is crazy. Any high energy drinks, those are mostly caffeine or sugar. Also, that's why you get the burst, but then you also get the crash. That's why you have to keep drinking it. And if you go to if you go to Starbucks and places like that, it's great to have a sexy name coffee. But understand that when I go there sometimes and I see that over 90% of what is in that coffee is all the whipped cream and the caramel and all of that, I'm like, does it really make sense that that's what we're putting in our bodies? If you're going to have coffee, have a healthy coffee. There's a lot of new companies out there that are making coffees that are really healthy for you, but also they give you the feeling that you're looking for from coffee without all the sugar added that is actually causing a lot of inflammation in the body.
And it's not just having the sodas that don't have sugar, because I mean, Diet Coke is probably one of the worst things you can put in your body.
Right.
I heard Andrew Wiles speak, and they asked him if there was, what's the worst thing? Like, what's the one worst thing, or two worst things? And he said, Diet Coke by far is the worst thing that you can put into your body. He says it's the equivalent of starting a forest fire in your stomach. And then the second worst thing, which I was kind of sad to hear, is he said fried zucchini. He says that basically zucchini becomes a sponge and you are basically just eating a sponge of oil. So darn it.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So just going from a Coke to a Diet Coke is not the answer either, right?
Well, and
Uh,
we know that our water is one of the biggest culprits of our toxicity, right? Studies have shown that over 230 toxics in our waters, and you name it. I mean, from anything to everything. So I always let people know, look, the best thing you can do is drink water. But if you're going to drink water, try to drink it from a filter and put it on a glass container, because these microplastics, more and more studies are now coming out and realizing that those microplastics from the water bottles, especially when they get heated and you're out there and you buy the water and all of a sudden those microplastics go into your body, well, they get stored in your brain. They get stored in your gut. They get stored pretty much everywhere in the body. So make sure that you try to not necessarily go after the plastic bottles. Try to use glass as much. I mean, I have glass containers that I use whenever I travel because I just put my filter water there and then I don't feel, that is an issue.
Well, at one of your events, I got to hear Paul Baratero speak, and I got one of the Echo Water filter systems, and I've been loving it. Not only does it filter it, but also it
Yeah.
makes it hydrogen, and the quality of your water is everything, right? It is so, so much. So, if you were to give advice about one thing that people could remove from their life, whether that be a food or a behavior, or what do you see people doing that may be having the biggest adverse impact in their health?
If you would have asked me that question a year ago, I would have given you a different answer. But based on the studies that I'm seeing now, the one key to longevity that we're finding out, guess what it is? The connection with our relationships. That is the one foundation that most of us are sacrificing for business success or independence or whatever you may want to call it. So, my suggestion is begin to build a healthy relationship with yourself first. That is the most critical one. Because if you don't have that, it's hard to sustain any relationship with anybody else. And then, second, begin to build a deeper relationship with those people that you're the closest to. So if you have a significant other, if you have children, if you have parents that are still living, grandparents, etc., begin there, right? And siblings and uncles and aunts, because that's your closest circle that can actually impact you in a negative way long term to reduce your longevity opportunities. And then I would say the people that you surround yourself with at work, because there is toxicity in a lot of relationships out there, and especially in our young children. I mean, you go to any college, right? I was president of a university. I can tell you there was so much chaos in these relationships. People that all of a sudden were just connecting with people from a physical level, or just they wanted something from them, but they're not really looking for a healthy, balanced connection. And what I mean by that is that I think we should look for people that share a similar value system that we have. Those are the relationships that I find can last, right? So if my value system is a strong work ethic, I'm not going to be with somebody that is lazy and doesn't think they should do anything. I want to be with somebody that appreciates that, there is something about work that is extremely honorable and healthy, right? Because it gives you a reason to get up in the morning and contribute to the value of somebody else's life. If I value integrity, meaning what I think, what I say, and what I do are the same, then I want to surround myself with people that their word is their bond, right? Not people that would tell you something but do something totally different. So look for values out there and begin to build those type of relationships. And I know that that would be probably one of the healthiest things, and maybe not the answer you expected from somebody like me, 38 years in the wellness space, but that's what the new science is telling us. And I'm really, really enjoying practicing and recommending that and seeing the benefits of that.
In Harmonium, our online community, we this month or actually in December, we're working on relationships and love relationships. And I love what your comment was about it starts with yourself, right? Self-love is the most important thing because it affects all of our relationships. So the more that we can build self-love, it'll be the love of which we can attract other relationships. So I love that. And also what you're talking about is what Blue Zones was surprisingly let us know, right? Is that our communities are everything. It has a lot to do. But, I wanted to also touch on the fact that when you say about surrounding yourself with people, it doesn't mean about judgment, right? Because a lot of times people say, oh, I'm going to judge those people because they're not this way and they're not that way. It means everybody's on their own path. Figure out what your path is, and then you're through coherence and resonance, you will attract people who are in alignment with your path. Thank you so much for that message. I think that is such a powerful one, especially as we move into this next generation, this next era of evolution. It's really about self-love and non-judgment, and it's great, great tip.
Thank you. And I think that one of the things that we all need to recognize is everybody is deserving of their own choices and opinions, even your own family members. Many times we notice that people closest to us may have a different opinion. If we have children, they have their own opinions, but remember, sometimes we have to choose a bad choice in order to learn a great lesson. And in my life, one time I was asked to give a lecture called Defining Moments. And I realized that over 90% of the challenges that I've had in my life was who defined me to who I am today. It wasn't my successes. It wasn't my comfort. It wasn't all the things that I did that everybody talks about. It was actually the things that nobody knew when my brother was killed, or when I had to move from Colombia to the United States, and they set me back 2 years in school because there was no English as a second language. And when I was an athlete and I wanted to be a doctor, and I had to study an additional 3.5 hours after practice just to be able to get the grades that I needed to go to pre-med school that I really feel good about. So pay attention to the challenges in life and be grateful for them, is what I say. Instead of judging them, instead of being like, oh, why am I going to this, and feeling like the universe and God is punishing you, no, it's waking you up and making you realize that there's a lot more to you that you even think is possible. So embrace it and ask yourself the question, what can I learn from this? How can I use this to make me a better version of myself? How can I use this to propel me to the person that I was destined to be, not the person that I'm stuck being right now because I'm not getting out of my comfort zone?
Oh my gosh, I love what you're saying. This is so in alignment. So I can't have you here though without touching on a little bit of biohacking, because I know that you are always at the cutting edge. You always know about the new technologies, the new stuff. And so many people not only want to be reversing chronic disease, but they also want to be focusing on living a very long and healthy life. So what are some of the things that you can share with us that you've seen, maybe some products or things that are kind of on the cutting edge that you think are going to actually help us reverse age?
Well, you mentioned one of the first ones, which is Brain Tap with Dr. Patrick Porter. And I am such a big fan of that because of all the gifts that I give my children, that is the one gift that they all have told me it was the best gift I gave them. Because when you can reprogram your subconscious mind, which is 95% of your reality, there's no greater gift that you can give someone, whether it's your parents, whether it's your siblings, whether it's your children, whether it's your friends. That would be number one. Number two, hyperbaric chambers. I bought one about a year ago, and I'm telling you, now they make them soft. So if you don't have the space for the hard shell ones that can be very pricey, you can buy a soft one for only a few $1,000s that can actually give you incredible benefits by pushing that oxygen into those cells that are not getting any oxygen. And that's where you find a tremendous amount of health and opportunity for longevity. The other one, I'm a big fan of hydrogen inhalation, right? Not oxygen, but hydrogen, because there's a lot of studies that have shown that not only hydrogen in your water, which like you, that's all I drink, but also when you inhale it, we have found that it would be amazing to cross the barrier in your brain and be able to prevent a lot of this Alzheimer's, dementia, and many of the inflammation that is going in our bodies. So that's another one of the technologies that I love. Of course, LED lights. They're very popular, and even if you don't have to have necessarily the very expensive LED beds, you can buy some good quality LED lights, whether they're pads or whether they're blankets, but you make sure that you're using one that has the vibrations and the frequencies that have been proven scientifically to give you the benefits of red light. I'm also a big fan of cold laser. I've been using cold laser for almost 35 years, especially with professional Olympic athletes, which I was part of that world for 15 years. And I could get somebody that was injured, be able to play the next day where nothing, ice, cold baths, nothing will give me that level of ability. So I'm a big believer of cold laser. For those people out there that have not experienced it, make sure that you seek out a provider like a doctor of chiropractic or somebody like that we use them quite a bit in our practices. PEMF, I still think is one of the top technologies out there, whether it's a pad, whether it's the chairs, whether it's the beds. Just find a PEMF technology that works for you, because those are the ones that I believe this revolutionizing the way that our body heals. And I love that technology. And I'm telling you, I could go on and on, because if you come here to my house, you will see the whole second floor. I got more technology than almost any clinic out there, because I put myself through that every single day. I realized that nothing is worth anything unless I participate in that process. Many of us have machines and technologies and the ability to use them in whatever healthcare center, gym, or that we go to, but we do not do it. And that there's no way there's going to be a transformation unless you become a participant of that technology. So just begin with one and see which one appeals to you and which one addresses the major things that you're trying to correct in your life. And just start that journey. And what happens is that all of a sudden you start becoming very aware that the body is responding in a way that nothing else has done it. And then you start seeking and attracting the right technologies that will be for you. And don't think that you have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars. There's technologies that are very inexpensive that you can implement in your life every single day without necessarily, especially nature, right? Just going for a walk or a hike, getting out in the sun. These are things that all of us can do. But guess what? Most people right now, they're living under a building or a roof with some synthetic lights that are not giving the body the vitamin D3 that it needs. And then also, we're not breathing fresh air. We're breathing air conditioner air that is recycled that may actually be very toxic in some environments. So just use nature as your guide, especially when you're wanting to implement some of these behaviors that have been proven to help you tremendously.
Beautiful, beautiful. I love all of those, and I'm going, check. I got that. I got that. I got that.
Well, the other one that I would tell you that I'm very excited about is, of course, in the regenerative medicine space. Like, we have the functional medicine space, which I love, because now we can measure markers that we can even determine years in advance before a symptom or a disease process shows up, we can actually see now what may become a potential for somebody. So we can be very proactive. So I love that about functional medicine. But in regenerative medicine, of course, we have stem cells, which have been incredibly effective and beneficial for a lot of people out there. And make sure that you have a provider that has a good product. And I know some people even go out of the country for that. And then there's another product that came out in the market recently called Cell Factors, which is it's kind of like taking the best of stem cells, but it's about enhancing your cell signaling, right, in order to allow your body to repair itself much faster than anything I've seen there, including stem cells. And then, of course, the all-time favorite right now is peptides, but natural holistic peptides. Peptide is a natural chain reaction of amino acids. It's not a unnatural process, but some of these peptides have been made in a pharmacological way, right? Like Ozempic and others. And those are the ones that sometimes you hear about the potential side effects, but there are a lot of natural peptides out there that are organic, that are giving you tremendous benefits without any potential side effects or very little or anything at all. And those are the ones that I'm kind of guiding people to recommend look into that, because peptides are really showing a tremendous opportunity to not only reverse chronic disease, but allow somebody to actually live their potential when it comes to their health.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I want to wrap back around to the conversation about leadership, because a lot of times people think leadership. I know you are a mentor for so many people. You have been a guide your whole life. You've been educating, leading, guiding, mentoring. Oftentimes people feel like in order to be a leadership, it's about everything about what they say, and maybe talk about how people can lead through example, especially when it comes to self-health, and how really making good health a influence on, decision making, leadership, impacting others positively. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Well, in my evolution in understanding that word leadership, which is a very important word in my opinion, as I evaluated what made me a leader, it wasn't that I had any extraordinary characteristics. It was actually, I would tell you very simply, I was a great student. I still am. I am a great student. I want to learn. I want to experience. I want to try something before anybody else. So I have a lot of initiative when it comes to being the first one to volunteer to do something. That's what a leader does. A leader is not an spectator necessarily. A leader does take time to learn, but then once they master that learning, then they go ahead and teach it and they lead it, you know? So that would be the first thing that I would say. You have to be a good student. You have to have a tremendous initiative, meaning you be the first one to raise your hand whenever somebody says, hey, we need to get this done. Good, count on me. And in fact, the busiest leaders in the world are the ones that have the highest initiative, that they're the ones that are volunteering for things when everybody thinks they're so busy. Why? How can this person make the time for that? And then I would say, when it comes in the book, I wrote actually a whole chapter for parents, that when it comes to self-help, we have to take more responsibility as a parent when we have young ones as to what environment are we creating for the health of our children. Right? When I told you that over 50% of our children have a chronic disease, that's the most concerning part of not only this administration, but me personally. Because if you have a child that is already experiencing obesity, diabetes, heart disease, cancer, right, which is rampant right now, we need to make sure that that child is going to have a chance to live a long, fruitful life. But what are their chances if they're already in their teenage years, so sick that they can't even get out of bed? So that's really the concerning part. So I tell the parents, the best way you can lead your children into health is lead by example. So make the right choices when you go to the grocery store and what you put in your pantry. Make the right choices for when you put in the refrigerator, because whatever you have there is what your child will eat. Engage them into cooking with you. Have them cut the lemons, have them cut the avocado, have them stir whatever sauce you're making, Get them involved in the kitchen. Not only is it a great bonding time to talk to them, but more importantly, you're teaching them how to cook for themselves instead of depending on fast foods for the rest of their life, which is what we're seeing a lot of people out there. They don't even know how to make a sandwich. They just rather go out there and buy a sandwich or a fast food because they think it's better or easier, and it's not. It's become very expensive to go to fast food places, but also there's no nutrients in that food that is going to help your body actually grow and allow them to not only develop their brain, but develop their body so it can function and keep them healthy as they get older. So the responsibility, leading by example, I still think that is one of the best things. And I'll end with this: having a mission that's bigger than yourself. Leaders do not think about them. That's called survival. Leaders think about the needs of others. That's called service. So a servant leader are usually the best leaders because they're always thinking of the needs of others, number one, and they have missions that are bigger than themselves that they're never going to accomplish it in their lifetime, but they will work their lifetime towards it. And that's really what will make somebody a tremendous leader in any community.
So important. And I'm so happy that you brought up parenting, because parenting is such an important job, such an important role right now as our life is are going through so much transition. And when it comes to teaching about health, right, it starts at home. So that's a beautiful tip. As we round this out, Dr. Fab, give somebody, they've been listening to this, they're inspired, they want to make a change in their life. Obviously, they should come out and they should get the book, Self-Health, but leave them with one tip. Where do they start? If they're feeling a little overwhelmed, if they're not sure where to go, what's a good first step?
You know, in the book, I wrote a metaphor that I think really surmises the value. And that is that pretend that when you're born, you're given a backpack. And as you make your choices throughout life, whenever you make a bad choice, not sleeping enough, not managing your stress, not surrounding yourself with healthy minded people, experimenting too much with drugs and alcohol to the point of toxicity, not really eating organically, whatever the choice, it's like putting a rock in your backpack, right? And as you get older, that backpack gets heavier and it makes it very difficult for you to live a healthy, vibrant life. And yes, you can get a can, or maybe you can even get a wheelchair and carry that backpack, but your quality of life is always going to be limited. But the good news is that when you make a good choice, it's like removing a rock from your backpack. So even though people are saying to me, look, as I'm getting older, right, you're not going to get sicker. You're not going to age if you're making good choices, because what you're doing is you're removing all of those rocks from your early bad choices. You know, you're putting air filters in your house to reduce any potential bacteria, viruses, mold, right? You're drinking filtered water to remove those 230 toxicities in our tap water. You are filling your pantry and your refrigerator with healthy organic foods. All of those choices that you're making, you're removing all of those rocks. And now you have a vibrant life that you can be excited about, that you can feel good about. So as you get older, not only are you going to look younger, but your body regenerates constantly. So you're regenerating all of those cells in a way that your body and your markers are going to be better. And you hear now in the news people talking about not only their chronological age, but their biological age. And all that means is that you reverse the clock, where now maybe you're 15 years younger biologically, because you're making so many good choices. You've removed so many of the rocks in your backpack that your body is showing you what is possible. Even at our age, right? We're supposed to live to 120 years old healthy. And right now, after 60 years old, the average American has 3 to 4 chronic diseases. 3 to 4 after 60 years old. They're taking an average of 4 to 6 pills to make it through the day. That is not living. I want you to have the best quality of life. And I tell you, when you put health as a priority in your life, it impacts every area of your life. And that's where I believe our life potential really comes, is by making good, healthy choices.
Beautiful. And the earlier you start, the better.
Always, and always, and make sure that look, even if you're 80 or 90 years old right now, and you're saying, but it's too late for me, or I don't know, or even if you're 400 pounds, make the choices today, little, one choice at a time. That's all I'm asking. And try it for yourself and see how you feel. And then notice how other people are beginning to now notice, and they're going to be saying, Mary, you look better than I've ever seen you. Have you lost weight? That's why a lot of people select sometimes doing surgeries and plastic surgery and things that are very invasive in the body, because they want that quick result. But guess what? That's not the answer. I mean, I remember when gastric surgeries began to become popular, and people were doing it for the extremely obese. But guess what? That's the majority of the people right now, right? So they're obese. So you can do gastric. And many people that did those gastric surgeries, and they cut part of their organs in order to shorten their stomach or their pathway, those are not long-term solutions. If somebody would have told them, I said, you know what, I'm going to take you by the hand and I'm going to give you step by steps on what you can do, and you just start making those steps one step at a time, you'll be surprised how quickly you can end up where you want to be without a lot of effort.
Beautiful. Dr. Fab, for those who want to go deeper into these principles that you've shared, where can they find your new book, Self-Help, Reversing Chronic Disease?
Yeah, it's interesting because I've made it very easy since I do a lot of media. You just go to my website, drfabmancini.com. And when you go to the website, I put together over $1,000 worth of free resources to help you live your best life, from videos to books to, I mean, whatever you need and I keep adding to it because I want to give you as much of an opportunity to make a change in your life. Because maybe some things are very appealing to you, like listening to a great interview that I have with somebody that's done incredible things in the world of health, or maybe a motivational video, or maybe it's a booklet or a blog or something that I wrote. Whatever it is for you, I have a feeling you'll find it. So if you go there, you can buy the book. You can also get these resources at no charge. This is my gift to you for being here and being open to learning and improving your life, because that's what we do. And then from there, you can also learn about where I'm going to be, any events that I'm having, the mentorship program that I have had for the last 10 years to help individuals really achieve the higher level of quality of life. So it's as simple as drfabmancini.com. And all my handles are Dr. Fab Mancini. So whether it's Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Dr. Fab Mancini, and you'll find me there.
Absolutely, because there's no other Dr. Fab.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here with us today. I just always love to hear your inspirational words, and today was no exception.
Thank you.
We're so grateful you joined us for this episode of Delphine Circle. Don't forget to subscribe, comment, and share. And for even more connection, sign up for a free community membership at harmoneum.com. See you there.